Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk about flooding in Udon, a remote Aboriginal community in Western Territory. This is part of our crucial design approach, where we explore how we can help vulnerable communities responding better to emergencies, in this case, frequent floodings. Next, we can go to background. Udon is located about 280 kilometers west-northwest of Alice Springs. It's home to around 800 to 1,000 people, mostly from the Opiro Aboriginal group. This place has a strong cultural identity. You may have heard of the Ulinaku Art Central. It's one of their most important cultural samples, but display their rich traditions. Udon faces serious challenges from infrastructure, limited access to services, and increasingly frequent weather events. Flooding has become a growing threat over the past 2 decades. Let's have a quick look at Udon's history. It was founded in 1946 as a government aid station. The first group of Opiro residents settled there in the 1950s. In 1985, the Art Central was established, a big deal for cultural preservation. In 2021, they were hit by one of the worst floods in recent years. So we can see the history of Udon is closely tied to both cultural resilience and environmental changes. The Opera people are one of the largest Aboriginal groups in Central Australia. They speak their own language, have deep roots, family collections, and keep many cultural practices alive, like dreamly stories, ceremonies, and dodge painting. For them, that isn't just a physical space, it's deeply spiritual, connected to ancestors' stories and identity. So when floods damage the land, it's not just about property loss, it affects their whole way to life. So why are we focusing on this issue? Well, first, flooding threatens basic safety. Growth get cut off. Homes are damaged and the emergency help takes longer to arrive. Second, it risks disrupting cultural connectivity. The land or country is part of who the Opero people are. Third, there's a big policy gap. Aboriginal communities like Udon are often overlooked in emergency planning. And lastly, good design can improve resilience if we work with the community, not just for them. We are creating better systems that actually work in the long run.
Hello everyone, I'm Jennifer. I will continue by talking about the emergency situation in Udon. Udon has a strong cultural identity. Families live in multi-generational households and value shared space and collective life. Art is very important in daily life and rituals, through murals, floor paintings, and textiles. Children learn through rituals and storytelling, not just a formal education. These cultural values are essential in designing any response to flooding in this community. Moving on to climate. The climate in Udon is semi-arid desert. Summers are extremely hot and winter can be cold. Rainfall is very low and seasonal, around 300 mm per year. However, when it rains, it tends to be very intense, which causes floods, flooding. The terrain of Youtmo is mostly flat with some small sand dunes. The red sandy soil is loose and unstable. It doesn't absorb water well, and it makes the area prone to dust storm, erosion, and flashing floods when heavy rain comes. Youtmo vegetation includes spinifex and acacia shrubs, which help prevent soil erosion. The region supports a variety of bird and small desert animals. The ecosystem is delicate and close tied to vaporiculture, so any flood response must avoid damaging the natural habitat. So, what's the problem? The environment is highly fragile. Any large circle construction or unplanned activity can damage the soil and plant. For example, white ants or termites are common and can destroy wooden structures. Also, if surfaces are provided or compacted too much, it leads to dust storm and soil erosion, especially after flooding. Another big challenge is how remote Youtmo is. It's about 219 kilometers from the nearest town. During floods, roads can be blocked, and it's really hard to get help or supplies in. That makes it much harder to respond to emergencies. Even though it doesn't rain much, when it does, it's heavy and sudden. The land can't drain it fast, so it turns into flood very quickly. Buildings are not built to deal with this. When there is no proper drainage system, this causes damage to homes, roads, and makes the area unsafe. There are also some social problems in community. Sometimes there are conflicts between families or tribes, and young violence is a concern. Public spaces are not always safe or well designed, and there are not many places for young people to go. This can get worse during emergencies.
Hi everyone, welcome to my part. The first case study is the 2022 flood in Udom. This photo shows a flood street in Udom. After 3 days of heavy rain, roads were blocked, houses were full of water, and people can't go out. These two lines show in this place the January is the big rainfall. There were no joys and no emergency shelters and no warning system. Elders and children waited near 2 days for help. According to this, we can learn the town need safe shelters, faster answers in local emergency team. And the second case study is about water shortage. Between 2019 and 2023, Udom's groundwater dropped. The government stopped building new homes. Many people lose good house. Cultural events were cancelled. People feel ignored. According to this, we can what's went wrong in here? There are no rainwater system, no long-term water plan, and no community consultation. According to this, we can learn water planning must include the community voice. Rainwater
tanks and the long-term plan are key. The third case study is in 2023. Another community also had flood, but they were ready. They had local teams and joined the pilot program. This photo show a helicopter used for rescue. Emergency shelters were ready in advance. So what's different from Udemy is the first one is Udemy have no plan and no team and no any support. People had no way to act early. And according to this, we can prepared community can protect lives. So why do Udemy have these things? I found the 3 reasons. The first one is too much rain. Cinema change courses more extreme rain. Water comes too fast to absorb. And the second one is flat and dry land. The land doesn't absorb water well. The third one is no drainage system. It's no pipes, ditches, or some floodways. Road and house block water movement. So according to this, we can know natural and design factors both case flooding. So how can reduce or something to remove this? The first important design stage, I think, is about infrastructure. The first we can do is raise the shelters, home on stilts to avoid water damaging, and the second one is can make the permeable roads. It can let water soak in instant of flooding. The third one I think can storage parking, like these two picture. This design the green space for excess water. It's useful to reduce water save and things like that. So according to this, we can design can protect people during emergencies. And the second design strategy, I think, is community system. The first one is train local emergency team. Train youngs and the elders in first aid, help before outside rescue arrives. And second one is warning in local language. Can see the red picture one is use their own local language and English, and add some picture and the symbol to let them know how to do. And the third one is teach kids with game and map. It can let them know how to do when they're child. So, according to this, we can know the design should include people, not just things.
Alright, now let's look at a real-life success story that inspired our thinking, the Najamiro Flood Recovery Project. So Najamiro is another remote regional community that was badly hit by floodings in early 2023. Roads were damaged. People had to leave their homes. It was a serious situation. what worked really well here was as community, not design. The Western non-cultural worked closely with local operate people to design a settle. That wasn't just participle, it was also cultural. They added things like traditional totems, rumors, and gathering spaces to make people feel connected. The building also followed Australian disaster safety standards, so it was safe and functional too. This case shows us that when local people are included in the process, the results are more accepted, more resilient, and more meaningful. Another inspiring example is from Galinanku, a community that faced cyclone land back in 2017. After the Galinanku, instead of just rebuilding the same way, the community, architecture, and the government worked together to build something better. A cyclone recovery center. What's special about it? They listen to Yunugu elders and make sure the space had cultural and spiritual meaning. They use strong, climate-resilient materials and even aided multicultural communication systems so people could understand emergency messages no matter what language they spoke. The result? A building that worked during emergencies and becomes a community hub for education and cultural events during normal times. It's now a model for resilient infrastructure across the Central. So why is this important for Udom? Well, for starters, people's lives and safety are at risk. Flow factor and non-response times means that a flood by easily turn into a disaster. Also, the land holds cultural and spiritual value. So, regional communities like Udom, land isn't just land, it's country, which means identity, and casters and belonging. If the land is damaged, it deeply affects the community's spirit. On top of this, there are quality gaps. Remote, indigenous areas are often left out of disaster planning. By highlighting Udom's situation, we can push for more inclusive emergency responses. Finally, it's about building resilience. When people have a say, they land, prepare, and work together, which means they don't always have to wait for people to arrive. So what kind of impact are we meaning for? Short-term, free casualties become people know how to evaluate safely. Starter ratio thanks to better emergency storage and communication. Basic tools like sandbags or channels help control small floods. Midterm, homes are raised higher and built with water-resistant materials. Roads and phones are restored so the community doesn't stay isolated. Schools stay open even during disasters. Long-term, we build emergency spaces that reflect all period culture, not just the settlers, but but places people feel connected to. We keep involving the community so they feel ownership or both the space and the planning. And hopefully this becomes a model, a policy example for other indigenous areas across Australia.
Now let's look at the frameworks we use to help understand and respond to flood issues in Udmo. First, we applied the UNDRR Disaster Risk Reduction Frameworks, which has 4 stages: prevention, mitigation, preparedness, and response. This helped us organize a data across different time frames, not just after floods, but before them even happen. We also used the water-sensitive urban design framework, which focus on collecting, slowing down, and reusing rainwater instead of just enjoying it away. That's very helpful in dry places with sudden flooding. And finally, we float the idea of cultural response design to make sure our solution fits the local variable way of the life, especially around land, art, and family structures. Then we come up with some practical methods to use these frameworks. For the environment, we suggest things like native plants to slow water and flood maps made with help for local elders. For infrastructure, we're thinking about shelter on higher ground and fixing roads that often flood. For the community, we suggest working together with local people, teaching kids about floods and building a small emergency team in the area. This is our reference. Thank you for listening.